Welcome to the Grimdark Chronicles. Something of mystery, an information repository, and a place of history and bygone times. With the archival world of Calliope lost to heretical treachery, now only a few data repositories remain. Hierarchical structure of a hive city, spires upper hive. Inhabitants. The spires are reserved for the wealthiest and most influential individuals, including nobility, planetary governors, high-ranking imperial officials, and powerful merchants. Each person's status is often reflected in their level within the spire, with the wealthiest residing at the very top. Roles. These elites govern everything from planetary policy to industrial production, ensuring the flow of resources up the chain to the Imperium. Their decisions directly impact billions. From resource allocation to planetary defenses, privileges, spire residents have near unlimited access to luxury goods, from rare off-world delicacies to rejuvenate treatments that extend lifespans. They live removed from the hardships faced by lower levels, enjoying conveniences like transportation networks, personal security details, and advanced medical facilities. Mid-hive. Inhabitants. This level is populated by middle-class individuals such as skilled laborers, artisans, minor government workers, and traders who benefit from the stability the hive provides but lack the wealth of the upper class. Roles. Mid-hive inhabitants manage the industrial, commercial, and administrative operations of the hive, bridging the gap between the spires and the lower levels. They ensure day-to-day productivity and the efficient running of industries critical to the Imperium. Living conditions. Mid-hive citizens have access to better accommodations than those below, such as clean if basic water, stable housing, and social services. While still facing some pollution, they have a standard of living that allows comfort and some leisure. Lower hive. Inhabitants. The lower hive is densely packed with unskilled laborers, factory workers, and their families. Many live in generational poverty, with little hope for advancement due to the stratified nature of the hive. Roles. These citizens are the backbone of the hive's manufacturums, mining operations, and maintenance sectors. They work in grueling shifts, often in harsh or hazardous conditions, producing goods to meet the Imperium's demands. Living conditions. Overcrowding is extreme, with multi-family units sharing cramped quarters. Pollution from industry is rampant, leading to chronic health issues, and resources like clean water and food are scarce. The infrastructure here is old and deteriorating, with frequent power failures and limited sanitation. Can you transition between each hive level? Transitioning between levels in a hive city is extremely rare and often challenging, as the social and physical barriers are vast and heavily regulated. Movement between levels is generally limited to specific circumstances, and each level's inhabitants are typically isolated in their designated strata. Here's a breakdown of the conditions, restrictions, and possibilities for individuals attempting to move between hive levels. Barriers to movement. Hive cities are structured to reinforce class divisions, with the spires at the top and the underhive at the bottom. The physical structure of the hive itself serves as a barrier. Each level has limited, tightly monitored access points that prevent free movement. Security forces such as arbits or private militias patrol entrances and checkpoints. Documents or permissions are often required for those hoping to cross levels, with severe punishments for unauthorized movement. Access is restricted to maintain social order, prevent infiltration from criminal elements, and protect the elites from potential uprisings or threats from the lower levels. legal pathways for movement, employment and military service. Skilled workers, engineers, or administrators from the lower hive may occasionally find opportunities in the mid-hive if they possess specialized knowledge. Similarly, military service offers a path for exceptional individuals from lower levels to gain status and access to better living conditions. Trade and guild connections. In the mid-hive, merchants and traders might have access to both lower and upper levels, especially if they possess specialized wares or serve as intermediaries for the nobility. However, most merchants must adhere to strict protocols and permissions. Clerical and bureaucratic roles. Some low-level administrators may rise within the Adeptus Administratum or other imperial organizations, allowing for temporary or even permanent relocation to higher levels. Such paths, however, are rare and require a lifetime of dedicated loyal service. Illicit or unofficial pathways, black market and gangs. In the lower hive and underhive, black market routes and smuggling tunnels allow limited dangerous access between levels. Organized crime syndicates control many of these paths, often charging exorbitant fees or demanding favors in exchange for passage. Hacking or forging passes. Some citizens obtain forged documents or hacked passcodes, granting temporary access to restricted levels. However, security forces are vigilant, and punishment for being caught with forged documents is often death or a sentence to penal labor. Secret cults and rebellion. Occasionally, chaos cults or revolutionary groups operate across levels, recruiting members from each tier. In these cases, mobility may be granted to dedicated cultists who swear allegiance to these hidden factions. Social and economic limitations. Even when legal or illicit access is gained, the social structure of the hive city discourages those from one level from attempting to stay in another. Lower-level citizens in higher levels are typically met with disdain and suspicion from residents, making integration difficult. Economic realities also serve as a barrier. Goods and services in higher levels are unaffordable for lower-level citizens, often forcing them to return to their original strata due to unsustainable costs of living. Instances of true social mobility. Cases of true upward mobility within hive cities are extremely rare but not impossible. Some citizens who demonstrate exceptional loyalty or skill may be sponsored by a noble or high-ranking official, granting them a path upward. Such individuals are often absorbed into the servitude of the noble class, leaving behind all ties to their previous lives. Occasionally, individuals distinguished through heroic military deeds, exceptional intellectual contributions, or religious fervor such as joining the ecclesiarchy may achieve a permanent place in the mid-hive or even gain recognition in the spires. Symbolism of each level and the struggle of transition. The hive city's structure reinforces the Imperium's rigid social hierarchy, with movement restrictions serving as a physical and ideological symbol of the divide between classes. Transitioning between levels is seen as both a reward and a reminder of the entrenched social order. Many citizens, especially in the lower hive, regard the higher levels with a mix of envy, resentment, and fatalism. The near impossibility of ascending from the underhive to the spires reflects the Imperium's values, loyalty, stability, and adherence to one's station. With change or ambition viewed as a potential threat to order. Living conditions in the spire's upper hive. Residences. Opulent residences in the spires are multi-story mansions and palaces made from rare materials. Interiors are decorated with valuable artwork, imported luxuries, and ornate architecture, that demonstrates the wealth and power of its inhabitants. Each residence is custom designed with expansive rooms, grand dining halls, and private sanctums. Many feature private courtyards or artificial gardens, a rare luxury in a hive city, maintained with advanced environmental controls. Amenities. Residents of the spires enjoy unparalleled luxury, including fresh gourmet food from off-world suppliers, air purified to perfection, and water filtered to an elite standard. Recreational facilities include private theaters, high-tech sports arenas, and lavish spas. Nobles can afford personal physicians and rejuvenate treatments, extending their lifespan and keeping them in peak physical condition. Security and safety. Private militias guard the spires, ensuring a near-impenetrable level of security. Elite guards trained in counter-assassination and espionage stand vigilant at all times. Advanced defense systems monitor every entry point, and the upper hive is protected by automated turrets, biometric access points, and other highly regulated security technology, making crime within the spires rare. Social dynamics. Social interactions are dictated by hierarchy and protocol, with every noble and high-ranking official observing strict etiquette. Only certain families or individuals may interact, each encounter serving as a political move. Banquets, galas, and private gatherings are venues for strategic alliance building, trade agreements, and subtle power plays. Nobles are expected to maintain an image of superiority and refinement, reinforcing the divide between themselves and the lower classes. Living conditions in the mid-hive residences. Mid-hive residents live in hab blocks, which are significantly more spacious and clean than those in the lower hive. Each block is connected to a broader infrastructure, with communal facilities and utility access. While less luxurious than the upper hive, these quarters offer some privacy and convenience, often located close to workplaces, markets, and other mid-hive facilities. Amenities. Mid-hive citizens have access to public markets, mid-tier entertainment options, and communal recreational areas. These spaces encourage social gatherings, and mid-hive residents may enjoy local theaters, gambling dens, or eateries. While resources are more plentiful than in the lower hive, essentials like healthcare and education are still limited in scope, with public services often understaffed or underfunded. Security and safety. Law enforcement patrols maintain a degree of safety, though their presence may be inconsistent. Arbits or local enforcers handle minor disputes and infractions. Though large-scale violence is less common than in the lower hive, although safer than lower levels, mid-hive residents still contend with occasional gang conflicts or uprisings that can impact certain areas, particularly near lower hive borders. Social dynamics. Mid-hive inhabitants interact in diverse social networks, from guilds and unions to local councils. Some mid-hive citizens aspire to rise socially, which may involve gaining favor with the upper class or proving their loyalty to the Imperium. Education and skilled labor provide limited upward mobility, but most mid-hive residents understand that the upper hive remains out of reach, leading to a unique blend of aspiration and resignation. Living conditions in the lower hive residences. Lower hive hab blocks are overcrowded, often hosting multiple families within single rooms or small units. These blocks are decaying, with dilapidated infrastructure and rampant infestations. Frequent power outages, lack of ventilation, and mold are common issues. Buildings are rarely maintained, and many hab blocks are structurally unsound, resulting in regular casualties from collapses. Amenities. Access to clean resources is rare, with citizens relying on rationed food and water. Black markets and water thieves. often provide contaminated or expensive alternatives to official supplies. Medical facilities are scarce, and lower hive residents frequently rely on unlicensed medics or turn to black market clinics for basic health care. Education is informal if available at all, and typically limited to vocational training for factory work. Security and safety. Crime rates are high, with gangs controlling large portions of the lower hive. Organized crime dictates much of daily life, and local enforcers are often corrupt or intimidated by the gangs. Law enforcement intervention is rare and typically involves violent crackdowns rather than routine patrols. Citizens are left to their own devices, with many joining gangs for protection. Social dynamics. Tight-knit communities form among those who share similar hardships. Friendships and alliances are forged through shared adversity, with families banding together for survival. Lower hive citizens are wary of outsiders, especially mid-hive inhabitants or officials. They develop strong local identities, often rebelling against any intrusion from the upper levels. Living conditions in the underhive. Residences. Dwellings in the underhive are makeshift shelters, using scrap discarded materials and whatever can be scavenged from higher levels. Entire families or groups may occupy abandoned buildings or repurposed sections of old infrastructure. The environment is incredibly hazardous, with risks from structural collapses, toxic spills, and infestations from predatory creatures. Many homes are temporary, constantly relocated to avoid gang raids or collapsing sections. Amenities. Basic needs like food, water, and medicine are barely accessible. Many survive by scavenging, trading, or stealing. Some underhivers consume synthetic or tainted food sources, leading to widespread malnutrition and disease. The lack of sanitation creates outbreaks of illness, with underhivers resorting to crude remedies or relying on shamans, mutant healers, or makeshift clinics run by local gangs. Security and safety. The underhive is a battleground where rival gangs, mutants, and rogue psychers fight for dominance. Law enforcement presence is virtually non-existent, and residents must fend for themselves. Safety depends on alliances with gangs, which offer a degree of protection in exchange for loyalty or resources. Mutants who are shunned by the rest of the hive form their own communities and defend their territories fiercely. Social dynamics. Society in the underhive is fractured, with loyalties shifting between gangs, cults, and factions. Each community functions independently, with its own rules and codes of conduct. Many underhive residents harbor deep resentment for those in the upper hive. Some turn to outlawed cults or chaos worship, seeking power or revenge against the elites who control their fate.